Hello and welcome to our Open 4 predictions for EU. This is going to be an interesting match. There's a couple new orgs or teams in here, so my apologies as we go through them. I'll be reviewing who's in each team at the start. So let's start off Ninjas in Pajamas versus 100%. Now, Ninjas in Pajamas had a great Swiss run. You can see that they beat Carmine Corps, who is considered the best team in the world right now. They beat GK, who's also a top 4 team, and they beat the new Gentlemates roster. So Ninjas in Pajamas had a really great Swiss run. And as a reminder, that's Itachi, Nas, and Oski. Now, 100%, another great team, another very talented team there. That's Luis P, Acro, and Rezi. Now, 100% had... they were 8th in their Group B, so they were lowest seed Group B. You can see they got swept by Vitality. Then they won against Frula. I don't know who's on that team. I'd have to look it up. They won against Nonchalant. They lost to Team BSK, and they beat Team TSK. So not the best results. So I'm going to say, based on that, I'm going to give them a 3-1 results. I think Ninjas is going to keep their hot streak alive. I think they have something to prove and that they really want to come out and win the event. Now, another side note, without going too into the details, is that Ninjas in Pajamas actually had an accidental forfeit in the initial double elimination qualification rounds earlier, where the coach had an issue trying to log them into their game, and it caused a forfeit because it showed them as not logging in for the game. And it's just hopefully a good lesson for those guys on figuring out. I think they said there were some technical issues with the site, so hopefully they get that all sorted out. Obviously, it didn't affect their mental because they went through and qualified still, and now they had a monster Swiss run. So Ninjas in Pajamas, congrats for such a great Swiss run. Smoky Bacon versus Carmine Corps. Coughing Baby versus Atom Bomb meme. Insert that there. So Smoky Bacon Association is Smokes, Methane, and Compact. Very good team. And Carmine Corps is Vatira, Atto, Drally. Arguably best team in the world. I don't think many people would have other teams on top of Carmine Corps right now, just because they pretty much dominated the first split of EU, minus they won 2 of the Opens. Then they won at Birmingham on LAN. So minus this loss to Ninjas in Pajamas and their loss to GK in Open 3, there hasn't really been any teams that have exposed Carmine Corps. So I think picking anything other than a 3-0 here is probably being overly generous to Smoky Bacon, even though Smoky Bacon did have a strong Swiss run. They lost to TSK, but then they had a good get back. 3-2'd Lirila, 3-0'd Atom Unity, and 3-2'd Pickup FC. I do believe that Carmine Corps is going to flex on Smoky Bacon, and Carmine Corps wants to get their get back game against the Ninjas in Pajamas, so double whammy there. Vitality versus Dopamine. Now, as a reminder, Vitality is Zen, Monkey Moon, and Exotic. Dopamine is K-Dop, Astral, and Rizfox. You guys say Rizfox or Rizfox? I feel like I've heard it said both ways. That's a team of classics. Most people would consider K-Dop to be the GOAT of RLCS. He has a storied history. If you're a recent fan, definitely look up his accomplishments and his accolades. It's pretty amazing that he's still qualifying, and he's had a very long career in the sport. Now, I do think a very experienced team like this is actually going to give Vitality some issues. So I think this might be closer than we expect it to be. I do think Vitality gets the win, but I don't think they get a clean sweep. They've also been a little bit slow in their tournament starts. And man, look at this bracket. Ninjas, Carmine, and Vitality. Now let's look at Forward versus Atom Unity. As a reminder, Forward is Edgeby, Mike Boy, and Growly. Atom Unity is Vorseful, Velocity, and Nugget. It says Nugget with 2 Qs, but he pronounces it nugget, like a chicken nugget. Anyways, fast forward. I always say that every episode. I always say fast forward because it's the F and the 4. It's just forward. Forward had a good Swiss. They 3-1 to Chippy Chips, 3-2 Dopamine, lost to Synergy in a close series, 2-3, and then beat Cloud Esport. Honestly, not a good Swiss results, but they didn't really play the best teams. Atom Unity, 3-2 JJ Rocks, solid team. Got swept by Dignitas, got swept by Smoky Bacon, 3-2 Lirily Lirila, and 3-1 Sick. I think I like forward here. To be honest, I don't know enough about either team to have a very confident pick for this lowers, but I mean, this is a pretty stacked bracket. EU Rocket League is something else. Let's see. Got Ninjas and Carmine Core. I'm just going to complete Group A because there's less picks to do this time. Ninjas versus Carmine Core. I do believe Carmine gets their get back, but maybe Ninjas gets a game off of them. I think it's important to Carmine to win against Ninjas because they lost in Swiss, and I do believe we'll see that there. I think this is one of those matchups where if they played 10 times in a row, Carmine wins it probably 8 or 9 times. But they got 3-1'd, so Ninjas clearly has the talent to do it, and on the right day can totally beat Carmine. Vitality versus Forward. I think I like Vitality here. And I think 3-1, maybe Forward gets a game. Maybe they get 2. I don't see Forward beating Vitality. So that's going to be my pick there. Let's go ahead and complete Group A. I feel like that's a good way to do this. Stay kind of up to date on all these teams. Now, 100% versus Smoky Bacon. Depending on how the Swiss went, let me see how both these teams played other average teams. 100% was kind of the definition of a bubble team. They lost to 2 teams that qualified above them, and they won to 3 teams that were below them, whereas Smoky Bacon lost to a team that was below them and beat 2 teams. I think this is a tough pull because I would have, without any other context, I would have said 100% would totally beat Smoky Bacon. And I think I'm going to stick with that, but I'd like to predict a close match so that way I have the copium if Smoky Bacon wins that I said it was close. Dopamine, Atom Unity. Dopamine, I just like checking the Swiss run to see if they punched up at all and beat anyone that did better than them. They had a close match against Forward, and they won a game off GK. They beat Nomster, which is a good team of up-and-comers. They beat Malke Drenjin, and they 3-1 Bobrito Bandito. And it seems to be a trend that they have Bobrito Bandito, Chippy Chips, Bill's Balls, Lirily Lirila. Seems like Fruly Frula. Seems like a European thing to have the alliteration of 2. Anyways, let's keep going. Dopamine, Atom Unity. Dopamine is... Oops. Computer froze for a second there. Like we said, they lost a close match to Forward, and they lost a not-so-close match to GK. Atom Unity beat JJ Rocks, got swept by these 2 teams. I think I like Dopamine here. A little bit more experience. I don't think they make it past Ninjas, though. That, I think, is a pretty easy 3-1. Forward, I think 3-2's 100%. Also probably close. And I think that's a pretty solid Group A. Carmine, Vitality, Forward, and Ninjas. Let me know your thoughts, and if you disagree on any of these, or if I pronounce somebody's name wrong also. Always trying to do better. Group B. Not as scary as a group as Group A, but also very good. Dignitas had a great Swiss run. You can see they did not drop a game, but they also didn't play. I mean, they played two teams that qualified, Unity and BDS, so that's pretty strong. As a reminder for everybody, Dignitas is Stizzy, apparently Jack, and Jorius. Now, remember, they got eliminated in the 5th round of Swiss by GK during the Birmingham Major. So they were very close to being top 8, but finished 9 through 11 in that ranking. Disappointing result for them. Obviously, they would have wanted to do better. Tokyo Tigers, that is going to be Cash, Grandma, and Pluvo. These players have played on a couple other teams during the first split before Birmingham, and now are teaming for this split. Talented players, talented team. I do think Dignitas does well against them. Granted, Dignitas also has Swiss Jorius, who is one of the greatest players of all time. He is excellent in Swiss. GK, BSK, that's Archie, Joyo, and Oli. BSK is Rust Easy 95, Mozzarella, and Pisky. Rust Easy 95, definitely a player you're starting to see bubble up in people's mentions about up-and-coming French talent. Pretty exciting for him. I think GK, even though they got swept by Ninjas in Pajamas, they definitely had a better Swiss than BSK. BSK did 3-1 100% though. That's pretty strong. I think I'm going to give this a close series, 3-2. Maybe I'm way off there. But I don't think GK always play the best later on in the tournaments. Unless they're really on, then they clutch everything. As a reminder, they won Open 3 and beat Carmine Corp to win it. Synergy versus BDS. This is a really exciting matchup. Synergy is AJG, Dorito, and Rizex. BDS, the newly formed BDS, is Nico, Juke, and Mitzer. They struggled a little bit. They got swept by Dignitas, and they got swept by JJ Rocks. So I do believe that Synergy is going to win just based on Swiss performance, if we can transfer that over. Long-term potential, this BDS roster is looking very, very promising. And I think most of us are very excited to see what BDS can do over this split, and then off season, and then next year I think they're going to be towards the top of the stack. JJ Rocks, it's a Spanish team versus Gentlemates. JJ Rocks is Mark by 8, Steak, and Reese. Although maybe this is Ray, because I believe his name is Raimundo. So I believe I'm going to start saying, instead of Reese, which is how I've heard it pronounced, I'm going to say Ray. Gentlemates is Seiko, Juicy, and the newly added Eugen. As a reminder, they dropped Radisson and added Eugen. I actually need to see if Radisson played in this qualification, but that's a thing for another time, because I don't remember seeing him in there. JJ Rocks had a very strong Swiss. They lost a close series to Atom Unity, and then they 3-0'd Crossbar Challenge, 3-0'd Team TSK, and 3-1'd Team BDS. Gentlemates also had a pretty strong Swiss, 3-0'd Tokyo Tigers, 3-0'd Bobrito Bandito, 1-3'd Ninjas, got swept by K-Corp, and then swept Chippy Chips. I could see JJ Rocks beating this, but I do think Gentlemates is probably the better team. And I think they're more likely to perform. Now, I have been burnt by them multiple times this season by predicting them to go further than they do. So, Gentlemates, now it's your time to show that I was just early, not wrong. Let's see. Let's go into Tokyo Tigers versus BSK. Since I don't really know these teams super well, I'm going to basically go off Swiss results here. And I see Tokyo Tigers basically reverse swept their Swiss, so that's pretty cool. I do think BSK had better results, so I got to give it to them here. 3-1. I think BSK beating 100% and beating Sick makes me feel better about them than Tokyo Tigers beating some teams where I actually don't know the players on them. I'm sure I would know them if I looked up the teams, but you can kind of tell which teams are bubble teams versus which ones belong in top 16 space. BDS, JJ Rocks, this is a tough one. I think we get BDS. I'm going to go with the hype of the youngsters and do BDS, but if JJ Rocks wins this, or if Gentlemates were pushed down here, I pick Gentlemates over JJ Rocks. So if either way, I think Gentlemates versus BDS. Now that would be interesting. I do think I would probably pick Gentlemates over BDS, but that's a tough match. Oh, that's theoretical. I guess we'll just have to see what happens there. Then Dignitas GK. I like Dignitas getting their game back. It's either this or GK is going to reverse sweep Dignitas. I think Dignitas wants their win back because they got eliminated by GK. So I'm going to give it to them as simply wanting it more. Then we've got Synergy Gentlemates. Maybe I'm overestimating them, but I feel like with how they played, I guess they really didn't play that many great teams versus the Gentlemates team did. But Gentlemates didn't really have a peak. This is tough. I think I have to pick Gentlemates here. But I do pick Synergy over BSK. This is tough. Then GK BDS, also another matchup that's just tough. I don't know about Group B, guys. I think this is tough because that first round, Synergy BDS could go either way. JJ Rocks, Gentlemates could go either way. And then upper semis, whether Dignitas or GK goes to the lowers, I think they both qualify through against any of these teams. Gentlemates, maybe I'm being too optimistic about their new team. It's tough to say. Anyways, we got to keep this video moving, so keep the predictions going. Look at this stacked roster, practically looking like RLCS main event here. Let's do Ninjas GK. I like the form I'm seeing, but I do think that's a nail biter. Ninjas GK. Synergy forward. I've put myself in a bad situation because I don't know if either of these teams are top 8 teams. They're right on the cusp. Synergy beat them before, so I think beating them again is not a bad pick. They beat them here, you can see. 3-2. I'll predict another close one. I'll do 4-2. Vitality Gentlemates. I think Vitality is the better team here, and I think it's pretty strong beatdown. Dignitas Carmine. I think that's another beatdown. I think Carmine's definitely the better team right now, which then leads us to some interesting matchups in the lower. Gentlemates versus Ninjas. I do like Ninjas over Gentlemates here. And I think Ninjas is going to start rolling at this point. Dignitas, Synergy. I like Dignitas here. I also think there's kind of 2 levels of this top 8 in Europe. There's the teams that really could win an event, and there's the teams that are very talented but probably don't have enough to beat international top talent. I don't know. You guys let me know if I'm being too cruel when I say that. Carmine Court versus Ninjas. I have them, Carmine beating Ninjas above. I think I keep that. But I'd like to give it a more close series. I do think if we see this matchup in a best of 7, Carmine's the type of team to win that. Vitality Dignitas. I think I'm going to go slightly bold. I'm going to pick Dignitas over Vitality in a close series. I think Dignitas is ready to get their get back. This is kind of controversial picks, right? Because I have GK going out so early when GK beat Dignitas, and then I've got Dignitas going to the grand final. But Dignitas played Swiss so well. So did Vitality. I think for content, I gotta say Carmine Dignitas. If I pick Vitality, that's kind of lame. Not just for that reason, but also they haven't really shown grand final potential in recent history. So I don't think this is too controversial. If anywhere I could really strongly critique, it's putting Gentlemates further than GK in this bracket. I think that's definitely a fair criticism if you were going to critique my bracket. And I don't love that I can't put GK further. I do think Ninjas is going to have a good showing, but I think Carmine has such a strong matchup against Dignitas that Carmine just wins out pretty easy. Still, even though they had a Swiss loss to Ninjas, I think they avenged that loss in in Group A, and then I do think they go through and win the grand final. Let me know what you think of my picks. This one was a little bit harder for me. There's so much talent in the EU. There's so much variability. It's a different beast than NA, because NA is also the type of place where the top teams do lose to random teams occasionally. You see that happen a little bit less in EU. As a reminder, if you want to fill this out for yourself, go to x.com/CodyVRL. In his bio link is where he keeps that, and he maintains these prediction sheets that you see all of your favorite Rocket League content creators using. He's the person that does that. So shout out to Cody. Thank you for all the effort that goes into that. And that's everything I've got. I think Carmine wins again. I've got Dignitas going to the grand final. I think their bracket, they get a great bracket by being lower here. Losing to Carmine might actually be good for them because it puts them into bracket here. Vitality's in there. I'm not surprised. GK's in there. I'm not surprised. Ninjas are in here. Tiny bit surprised. So let me know. Do you disagree? Do you think certain teams are going to go further? Did I make any really bad picks that you strongly disagree with? Please let me know. It's more entertaining when I get the comments about, hey, I think this is wrong or this is right. That makes it more fun for me, and it makes watching the games more fun. So I encourage you to do your predictions, and also thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and take care.